In politics, you're either on message or you are losing. Let's get to it. Welcome to On Message, our weekly look at where the battle lines are drawn and who is winning the war of words. This week, constructing a narrative. Last week, the Salt Lake Tribune published a story with the headline posing the question, why is Utah spending hundreds of thousands for a building and a fence at Governor Cox's home in Fairview? It's the kind of headline that's going to get some clicks. The story outlines an increase in the executive protection budget, part of the Utah Highway Patrol and Utah Department of Public Safety, of some $260,000. That money was appropriated to build a security station and add security fencing to the private home of Governor Spencer Cox, who has made his rural Utah roots and a determination to stay connected to his home community a part of his campaign and a part of his agenda. The story frames the narrative that this is no run-of-the-mill state construction project and that the cost was concealed within the budget, all while posing the larger question of whether or not this is an appropriate use of taxpayer funds. So the Cox team was faced with a choice about how to react and counter the story. The first question to ask in a situation like that is whether the story poses a real threat. Will it become enough of an issue that it hinders other things you're working on? Will it do any damage to your overall brand? Things along those lines. If the facts are on your side, getting your side of the story out is almost always the best way to go. The governor and his team used a two-pronged strategy to do just that. First, spokeswoman Jennifer Napier-Pierce gave the Tribune the very minimum via an emailed statement saying, "This project is the result of recommendations by the Department of Public Safety. In light of security concerns, we can't offer further information," close quote. The bare minimum. But they didn't just stop there. Governor Cox also posted a 12-tweet thread in which he clarified the building was scaled down from original plans, that he offered to pay for the upgrades himself, that they looked for cheaper options, and that the legislative leadership was fully briefed on the threats and expenditures, though they were not detailed in the budget for, security reasons. All right, so here's my take. First, on the expenditure. Look, we spend money to protect our high-ranking elected officials because there is a real threat, more than most people would imagine. There are crazy people who want to skirt the system and try to hurt or intimidate the people we elect to lead and run our state. And while the governor's mansion sounds like a great place to live, it's really more of a museum with an apartment on one floor. We can't blame the governor, whoever he or she is, for wanting to spend time at his or her actual home, whether that's in Salt Lake City or San Pete County, and providing the state's chief executive with security wherever he or she lives is a reasonable expense. The entire $4.8 million for protective measures is essentially a rounding error in a $25 billion state budget. Consider it part of the cost of doing business. As for the messaging strategy, what I find most compelling is how effectively Governor Cox uses his Twitter account to work around a media outlet I'm sure he considers to be less than friendly. Rather than simply replying to the Tribune, his tweet thread was sure to gain attention, and any follow-up coverage from TV, radio, or other outlets was going to use his perspective. In a way that seemed less formal than an official statement, he addressed the elements of the story he wanted to and didn't add any exclusive coverage to the Trib that they would have had they replied with that same information to the reporter. He also gave his supporters the ability to respond and extend the reach of his message, which is not to be overlooked. The governor's ability to use his Twitter account to connect directly to his audience and constituents, and its overall usefulness for sidestepping a media outlet, is a significant advantage. That wasn't likely going to be a big story, this construction of security measures. It wasn't going to have the entire state talking, but Governor Cox moved swiftly and effectively to nip the story in the bud. That's it for this week. More On Message in the next issue of the Utah Political Underground. Make sure you visit the site and sign up for our weekly email update. You can find more On Message videos, in-depth Utah political stories and analysis, plus podcasts and more at utahpoliticalunderground.com.